horrendously forgetful, and even worse at, at making notes. So then it'd be good to come back to and remember the examples that were given as well.
That's a great question.
Thought process.
Yeah, thank you. I've just started recording. I'm hoping that's okay with everyone. So I will share that. I'm saving it to my computer because sometimes when you save it to the cloud, it doesn't save. So I'm saving it to my computer. So what I will do is I might just email it to both of my tute groups. I won't put it on Leo because it is a national unit. And I don't really want other people looking in on our tute. It is the best tute, but I don't want them looking at what we're doing. So I will probably email that to you all anyway. Okay, so again, welcome and thank you for coming. It isn't ideal this way, but it is how it is. And I hope that after today, there's lots of clarification around things. Anyone else got a placement this week that they didn't have last week? Jordan, where did you get?
I'm actually not sure if I did mention this last week, but I did go to St. Brenton's primary school. Yes, that's right.
You had your first visit, did you, Jordan?
Yeah, on Thursday, last Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think last week you told me you had a placement. And how did you go?
Went really well, actually. It was surprising. I had a kindergarten class. It was very adorable. And it was fascinating, especially for me as I have a job at 4 and after school care, so I was able to put a bunch of my skills from that into there and apply them there. And it's like a good intro viewing into what I'm going to be doing. And I got to patrol around, in at lunch. It was fascinating, stuff like that,
That's awesome, Jordan. And do you feel better now you've had your first visit? You always feel, before your first visit, it's the fear of the unknown, and you think, oh, what if this, what if that? Do you feel a bit better now you've had your first visit?
I do feel a lot better. I don't feel entirely confident that I might be like a full teacher in the way that a lot of people are, but I do feel confident that I'll be able to do a similar role as what I've been performing right now. So yeah.
And that's awesome, Jordan. And you know what? You never know what the next few years hold. And, who knows which direction you'll go on, but at least you're getting to see all of that, and then you can make your choices from there. But you will learn so much from this placement, and it will, teach you, especially being in a kindy room. Kindy's interesting, isn't it? I actually love kindergarten. Kindy, yes, it is hard work. It's kind of physically exhausting being in a kindy room. But it's also awesome. So I hope do you have some good students there?
I do. I have a lot. There's quite a few students that are very culturally diverse, which is very interesting. When I was like trying to teach a child who was Vietnamese, I think, she wasn't getting what I was like trying to explain to her with like dice rolling, but she was saying yes anyway and nodding her head, because that's a very cultural thing to do, as in like, yes, I'm listening to you. So it's interesting trying to find techniques to work around that and still try and teach and give them the information and try and guide them. And there was other things too, but it was very fascinating. But yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, ESL children can be extremely hard to teach. Do you feel like you have a supportive supervising teacher there, Jordan?
I very much do. She's really great. And like the other thing is there was like the first day I was there, it was like a buddy thing going on where they went to year 5 students, like kindergartners, and I helped out with that. It was very fun and intriguing. So yeah. My teacher there is helping me a lot though. So yeah, that's good.
That's awesome. I'm sure you'll love it. And I'm sure during the tute, I'll probably ask some more people about their placements, but I hope if you are on placement, it's going well. Remember, anytime you can ask anything if it's about placement, if you're not sure. I know, Vivian, I'll have a chat to you at the end of this class as well, in regards to your situation there at your placement. But if anyone needs to hang around at the end of the tute to ask, something that they're not sure about, I'm more than happy for you to do that. Okay, so we're going to get started. Did anyone, well, I'm hoping you all, if you haven't, you need to, did anyone attend the live lecture yesterday at 9 a.m? I can see a few thumbs
My
up.
class was at 10, so I couldn't.
No, that's okay.
I watched the recording.
Yeah, I couldn't attend. Look, I can see, thank Flora, your thumbs are up. There's a few of you that did. If you didn't do that, and I wasn't able to as well because I was teaching, but I have gone on this morning and watched the recording. It's about 50 minutes long. You really need to go on and watch that because it actually shows you exactly how to set up your second assignment, how to set up your Mahara portfolio, and it's quite thorough in terms of setting up the assignment. So I'm not actually going through that with you today because it's already been done. It's on that recording. There's things on the recording that I'll be repeating, but just really make sure you go on and look at that. That's under the week 10. It's just the week 10 tile, and you'll see it as soon as you open it. There's a big slide kind of recording, and keep it there. So if you're doing your assignment and you have a question more about the setup, you can go back and have a look at how the National LIC has done that for you. But I guess today I want to make sure I go through the assignment, just I guess in my words, and make sure everyone's on the same page. We might do that at the end, I think. I think I might get to lesson planning first because that will help you when it comes time to your assignment anyway. But I will, I think, go through the lesson plan first. And I think the reason, the lesson plan is for our assignment, but also importantly, it's for when you're out on your placement as well. You know that you'll all be needing to write lesson plans for every lesson that you teach. So I am going to share with you. So on our Leo page, there is the New South Wales blank template. If you look at my tutorials and where you would have found this Zoom link, if you go into tutorial resources, Sarah Stevens tutorials, you will be able to see a Word doc, and it's the New South Wales ACU lesson plan template. Can anyone, I'm just finding my screen again, can anyone not see that? Good to know. So that is the lesson plan template that you need to use for your assignment. If you are early childhood, now I think it's just Marissa in this class. Is that just you? Marissa, do you know, I'm finding this out for you. Do you use the same lesson plan, or were you advised to use a different format?
That's been a bit of a question mark for us because we were discussing this in our class the other day. We're going, which template do we use? Because the teacher was going like, it is an early childhood environment, so using the early childhood template makes sense. But then there's others that have gone, well, I've just gone ahead and just used the template that was provided for EDET100 because I don't want to get in trouble for not using that template. And so, I think they've just kind of left up to us, I think. So
can you see the early childhood template, Marissa? Have you got a copy of that? I'm
just trying to open it up. Just give me a sec. My computer's having some fun with me. But I'll see if I can try and grab it up for you. Give me a moment.
Yeah. I'll let you do that, Marissa, but we'll chat about that as well. I might get you just to email me that if you can, just the template you have, and I might just compare them. Either way, you can use either template. You're not going to be penalized if you use the one I go through today.
From what I get, the gist is more or less similar. It's just that there are differences, because I think because I need to go through myself properly. I haven't really had the opportunity to actually just take a step back and look through it all. There's been a lot going on. I'm not going to go through that, but from what I understand, that there was a bit of confusion about when it was looking at the EDET100 template, was that they were asking for things about the Australian curriculum that or some form of curriculum that had to do with primary schools, that had nothing to do with early childhood. So then the things they were asking for was a bit different. Yeah. So I think that was something that was it. But I'm going to look it up and find it and let you know in a sec.
Yeah, all good. I can even hang with you at the end and have a quick look at that. But the gist of what I show you today, so the lesson plan I'm going through today is what, if you're doing primary or secondary, is what you should use, okay, for this assignment and in your placement. It is a pretty generic lesson plan, and you can kind of adapt it as you go. So remember, I just said that's up on Leo under my tutorial resources. And the reason we're all using that at Strathfield. So Chris actually emailed that to all of us tutors and said to get you guys to use that, but he didn't specify early childhood. That's why I'm just questioning that, Marissa, but I will let you know and we'll chat about that. So that's the generic lesson plan, and that is something you need to keep and fill out for this assignment and also your placement. Okay, so I'm going to share a slideshow with you. Just bear with me. I'm hoping that I've allowed myself to share that. Oh, look, I'm not used to being on Zoom again. I'm used to being back face to face. Here we go. I'll share that now. All right, so we'll start at the first slide. Okay, Marissa, you're actually at the top of my screen there. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so today we're looking at lesson planning. And I guess we're going to do a WALT. So we are learning too as educators. And in this class today, we're learning to look at what makes a good lesson plan, and I guess why we write lesson plans, and what the main parts of the ACU lesson plan format are. Now, every uni is different with their lesson planning. That's why we're being more specific here to ACU, even though this is a national unit. You will get into your schools and your teacher will be an experienced teacher, so they won't write lesson plans. They will have more, and I've spoken with you guys about this before, they will have more of a day book structure. So it's like they'll have a plan for their whole day or even their whole week. And you will eventually progress to that. Okay, so at the moment I'm working with a lot of fourth year students, and they're using more of a day book structure because they teach whole days pretty much for 7 weeks. And once you get to that point, you can't be expected to write a lesson plan for every lesson you teach. But for your first prac, it's really important to be writing lesson plans. The reason we do that is because when you guys are not experienced teachers at this point of your degree, it is a really crucial document for you to have there in your class to follow. When you teach your first ever formal lesson, you're going to be nervous, and it's good to have that there as almost like a checklist for you if you get stuck. Okay, so that's why we write lesson plans, and it's for you to get your head around the content and to get your head around timing of the lesson and things like that. Lesson plans are not set in stone, they change. You can adapt as you go, but they are there usually for you to, stick to and use as a guide. So it's telling you to download the ACU lesson plan from Leo, but we've just talked about where that is. Okay, lesson plans in general, they need to be planned with the Australian curriculum. So NISA, we've talked about NISA. That's the New South Wales Education Standard Authority. Now, every state has a different curriculum authority. So we in New South Wales follow NISA. You'll see other states follow different, but we're sticking with NISA because we're New South Wales. Lesson plans help all teachers to order and sequence the content and skills. They indicate the outcomes. The outcomes are directly from the syllabus. The indicators, strategies, resources, anything that you need for that lesson. They do allow for reflection and evaluation of how it went, how it can be improved, and where you can go after the lesson. And following an ACU template is compulsory for student teachers on prac, which we've just talked about. So you need to do that. Remember how I said have your teaching folder and all of your lesson plans should go into there. And your supervisor will be able to check that. Okay, I'm not going to get you to turn and talk, but in general, I'll stop sharing for a moment. What do you guys think is important in a lesson plan? What's important for it to be successful, our lesson planning?
To have a goal that you want to achieve and steps in order to indicate how you're going to do that.
Yes, great answer, Marissa. A goal, and that goal it will be curriculum based. So you'll have the outcome, which we'll get to. You'll have what content you're going to teach them, what you'd like the students to achieve by the end of the lesson, and outline steps to get you there. Okay, I think I've said this to you. If I haven't, I'll say it now. When I pick up a lesson plan, I should be able to pick it up and teach from it. Okay, I shouldn't really have any questions when I look at it. So the language that you use in a lesson plan is very directional and very detailed. Now, when I say detailed, it doesn't have to be wads and wads of information. It needs to be direct and have the steps that, you know, are clear and structured. Okay, so if any teacher came, okay, I'm going to teach your lesson plan, Marissa, I can pick it up and go, have a read. Yep, I understand what to do and I can teach that class. No questions asked. So that's what I want you to remember when you're doing your assignment or when you're doing your lesson planning for your prac. So maybe you can get someone in your family, once you've done your lesson plan, even though they may not be teachers, but get them to look at maybe not all of the outcomes and all of the fluffy things that are at the beginning, but maybe get them to look at the steps and say, okay, if you had to do this with a class, do you think you'd be able to do it and understand what you're required to do? And that will give you a good indication as to whether it makes sense. And one thing, the reason I say that is because sometimes I do it myself. Things make sense in your head, but when you put it onto paper, it may not make sense to someone else. Okay, and your supervising teacher might look at it and go, oh, what does this mean? What are you doing here? Let's clarify this. Okay, I'll keep sharing with you. We will have plenty of time for questions, so don't stress about that. Let's keep going. Okay. Where does a lesson plan fit? So you write a program for the whole year when you're a classroom teacher. You plan units of work. Who can tell me what a unit of work is? Does anyone know what a unit of work is? That's okay. I can't see anyone. That's okay. Oh,
like I'm losing all train of thought, but like a something to focus on, like a what's it called? Like you know, in year 6 when you look at like how the government works or something, whatever that is. Like, would it be something like that, or am I going
no,
off?
no. Oh, Jordan.
Would it be stuff in like NESA and like the curriculum? Would that be like a unit of work?
So yeah, it is the curriculum. So a unit of work is, depending upon what you're teaching, a unit of work is like a topic. So look at it as like, okay, if you're teaching in maths, when you look through the syllabus, I really think you guys need to start looking through the syllabus for both if you're secondary, but if you're going into a primary classroom, you're going to have to do the same, and early childhood. So more for primary and secondary, it is a unit. So if you're teaching English and you're going to teach them how to write narratives, so narratives could be your unit of work. So it's a series of lessons that relate to one kind of topic or theme. Okay, so if you're teaching science and tech in a high school and your topic or theme is, I don't know, what's a topic or theme in science and tech in high school? I'm trying to remember them. Chemistry. Oh. Sorry, what was that, Marissa?
I was thinking physics specific of like, I don't know, gravity or something.
Yep, gravity. Gravity could be your topic. And you might spend units of work in a primary setting, usually span, depending on the KLA. Do we all know what a KLA is? It's an acronym. It stands for something.
Key learning area.
Awesome. Well done, guys. Key learning area. And in the primary setting, we have 7 KLAs. So key learning areas are literacy, maths, geography, history, creative arts. I'm just trying to think of them all. Science and tech, and I've missed one. Did I say PDHPE? I think so. There's 7 in the primary setting, and each KLA, key learning area, has a different syllabus document with all of the curriculum in there. Okay, so usually for most KLAs in a primary setting, the unit of work goes over about a term. Okay, so if you're teaching history And in primary schools, you might be teaching early Australia. You would teach probably one, maybe at the most 2 history lessons a week in a primary classroom. So two lessons a week that would go over maybe about the 10 terms. And your unit of work may be early Australia or Australia. So a unit of work is just a series of lessons that covers one big topic. The units of work in, say, maths and literacy are usually a bit shorter because there's a lot more to cover. So you might have a unit of work that goes over, say, 4 weeks, 2 weeks in maths sometimes. Okay, so just remember your unit of work is like a topic and there's a series of lessons that happen to learn about that topic. That's all it is. When you get to your later stages of your degree, you will be looking at how to plan units of work. So that's when we move away from lesson plans and we go, okay, this is our topic. What are the activities that we could do that help us teach that topic? Okay. You might create a plan for the week, writing up a day plan or lesson plans. Lesson plans are usually the first step. Okay. Critical questions that you need to ask when you are planning for your teaching. So what should each student be able to know and do when I'm teaching this lesson? What do I really want them to know at the end of this lesson? They're not all going to know it, but in essence, remember how I talked about that kind of mid-range group. Think about that mid-range group that are achieving where they should be. They might not be extended yet. They might not be, those support students. Look at the norm and the middle range and see what you'd like those to learn. How will we monitor them? What will we do if they don't learn? So for those students that might be finding things difficult, what kind of extra little support strategies do you have in there for those students? And they're usually just very simple things. What will we do if they already know it? Where do we go next? How do we extend? There's lots of things you need to think about when you're planning a lesson. We're going to have a little quick look at this video and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of our lesson plan and how, I'll explain what you need to write in each section. So just bear with me whilst I get this ready for you. I'm hoping it lets me share. Okay. All right, so I'll share the screen and I'm hoping the sound shares with you as well. Marissa, you're still at the top of my page. Can you give me a thumbs up when I press play to let me know that you can hear it?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name's Mary Pasala. I'm a grade 6 senior unit teacher. The students in my grade, their abilities vary quite considerably. I have students working well below the expected level and well above the expected level. I believe that by having open-ended questions, a lot of open-ended work, that caters to the differing abilities, because if rather than just having closed activities and you have to work out different worksheets for different students, if there's a rich question or a rich problem-solving activity, then the students enter it at their level and take it as far as they can take it. In the lesson today, you'll expect to see students working at tables at their own pace using a simple formula to turn numbers into palindromic numbers. So they'll all be completing, they might be doing different numbers and at their own pace, and some will be challenged with harder numbers.
Okay, you can write them backwards. Good, good, good. Does anybody know what they're called? Molly?
Palindrome.
Palindromes. Who's heard of a palindrome before? What else can be palindromes? Sage? Numbers. That somebody produced some steps, a little rule for making every number a palindrome. And that's what you're going to be exploring today.
I'll always look at the resource and think, okay, if and think of a particular student in mind, and what would that student need to complete the activity, or how would that student perceive that activity? And on the other extreme, how would my student who is working well above expected level, how will that student be challenged and be engaged?
Oh, you're seeing the reversals here. Ah. So you'll go 38, 83. Ah, okay. I haven't seen that before. That's good. So if 29 is worth testing, then 92 would be worth testing. 8 plus 2?
What's really important is that you're neat, okay?
11, 22, 33, 44. It goes diagonally like that. And then on the opposite side, it goes diagonally like that. And we are doing
Have a conversation with your partner and explain, before you explain to the whole class and to me, explain why you've shaded in some numbers and why you have left some numbers blank.
I think the lesson went fantastic today. All the students were engaged, and the students of differing abilities still entered the task enthusiastically and were working at their levels. I thought the lesson through in that I did want a whole class focus to explain the process first and for them to all understand the process, experiment with working out and actually having that time to work out which numbers are worth testing, and then come back to the carpet and come to a consensus. And then they went off and solved their numbers, and I liked the way that we finished off with the Maths 300 program and the possibilities of putting in any number you can imagine and looking at the steps done for them on the computer program. So next session they will have a laptop and they will just experiment and explore with different numbers, and I think they'll really respond to that and enjoy it.
How do you currently cater for a diverse range of abilities in your class? What kinds of questioning techniques can teachers use to support effective teaching and learning?
Okay, so that was just a little video that talked about, the different levels within your class, and I guess getting you to think about, okay, I've got a concept, how am I going to present it, and how am I going to allow all the learners in my class to achieve it? So just have that in mind. We will get to differentiation and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But the main thing you guys need to remember is how to write a basic lesson plan and then, look at differentiation a little bit later. Okay, so I'm going to screen share with you again the slideshow, and then I'm hoping this is the right one. Yes, we're here. We will get moving on this, but this is just a little bit of a background. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at 3 things. The main things you need to think about with the lesson plan is the content. That's the first thing. Okay, so when it comes to you either being on prac or for your assignment, with your assignment, we'll talk about that later, but you will be choosing a topic, okay, in a KLA, so it can be in any KLA you wish. Okay, try and relate it if you have a placement to something you are going to teach there. But if you don't have a placement, you would relate it to something, say you're going to go into high school and you want to be a maths teacher, you would do a maths lesson if you like. It's open-ended as to what topic you choose. Content isn't just about the topic, it's looking at the syllabus, the curriculum, the outcomes, and exactly what you want to do. That is the what. Then you look at the how. So I've got this topic and I've got this content. How am I going to teach it? What are the activities that I'm going to do to be able to get my learners to understand this? We're only looking at one lesson here. Don't overcomplicate it. It's one, and a topic is quite broad, but you're going to look at one little part of that topic for your assignment and for your, whatever lesson you're teaching on prac. And what resources and organisation do I need in that lesson to be able to teach it? They're the 3 main components of the lesson plan for you to remember. Remember, these slides are going to be left up there on Leo for you. Okay, so the what, learning intentions. Who can tell me what a learning intention is?
Is that like
you-
this area?
Be like your goal, right, for the lesson.
Yes, the goal. What are we intending to learn? I don't know if someone else spoke then. It's very hard because I'm screen sharing. I can only see Marissa at the moment.
There was someone else speaking. I
Yeah.
don't know who it was though.
Yeah, it was me.
I can't even see who that is because it won't. Who is it?
Lara.
Lara. Thank you, Lara. What
Maybe
were
if
you
you
going
put the
to
hand
say?
up, it might come up to the top maybe.
Yeah, I wonder if it does. Can you put your hand up there, Lara? And I want to see if I can see you.
Me?
Yes, please. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. I just said like the learning intentions is like the focus and the key areas you're going to be discussing in that specific lesson.
Perfect. Exactly right. So definitely, what are we going to be intending to learn? What are the specific things we want to achieve in this lesson? You need to consider the content. What are you going to teach the students? And that looks at a lot of things, as I just said, like the syllabus outcomes, concepts, knowledge, skills and questions to cover. The how will you teach and how will the students learn? How will they be grouped? Are you going to do it as a whole class? Are you going to do it in groups? Are you going to do pairs? Will it be an individual class, an individual task? How will you manage the students? Okay, it's simple things like, all right, think about how, if I've got a kindy class, I'm going to use your class for an example, Jordan. If I've got a kindy class, in kindy, you're not just going to go, all right, off you go. You know, how are you going to structure it? Because the kindergarten classroom needs so much structure. You're not even going to go, all right, off you go to your tables. You might say, okay, everyone with brown hair, off you go to your tables. You know, people that are in the snakes group, off you go. People that are in the wombats, whatever it is, you know, thinking about, you know, the classroom, or it may be a make-believe classroom for your assignment, but you know it. So how are you going to structure it and how are you going to manage students? So what kind of resources will you need? Is it, you know, there should be an ICT link in every lesson you teach. Is there art supplies? Is there concrete materials? What writing equipment do you need? How will I organize this? And is there anyone in the class that will assist you? Is there a teacher's aide? Do you have a class with really high needs? Is there teacher's aides in there? Parent helpers? How does it work?
Sorry, Sarah, just a quick question. Just to touch base on how you said it can be a makeup class, is that right? Does that come in with our Part A observation? Because I know I emailed you previously about if it's on placement or relevant example, would the situational analysis be the makeup one?
Yes, so we will get to that, Lara, but yes, you're right. So have you watched the recording from yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember she said on there, you can either have so if you've got a placement class,
yeah,
and you know them well,
yeah,
you know, you feel like you've kind of got a good grasp on what they're doing. And remember, you've still got another week or two that you might see them. So you can base it around that class, but you don't have to. You can make one up, which we will talk about, that you can kind of choose a school and research kind of what's at that school and put together a class, like a situational analysis for you to base your lesson plan on. And remember, there's no judgment on that. I'll be marking all of yours, and I'm not going to say, oh, well, Jordan's got a class and his situational analysis is real, whereas Lara, yours is made up.
Yeah.
It's how well you talk about that class and how well you write a lesson plan for that class.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. But we will get to that. So what's the relevance for you as a teacher, on your placement? So the main thing you need to do is observe your mentor teacher if you're lucky enough to have one. What are they teaching? Why are they teaching it? How are they teaching it? Where do they go to next? It's about learning as you go, and observe your students. If you have a class already, look at how they're responding. The teacher will do certain things based on the student's needs. They know them better than you. It's almost like you copy them. Okay, so if you've got a class that's really well behaved and they have a little bit more freedom, then you know that that's what you can kind of do in your lesson. If you have a class teacher that's very structured with their classroom and they have it a certain way, then you would follow that. What teaching strategies are most effective? So that means, you know, if you're looking at the class, what are they really responding to? Are they responding to it being very structured, or are they responding when they're given a little bit more freedom? Do they work better in groups? Do they work better individually? And other things like, are they understanding what they're learning? And do they understand where they'll go next? They're all the things you need to consider. Okay, moving on to the lesson plan itself. Now, I'm hoping I could almost, no, well, I won't type on this one yet. So this is the cover page based on that New South Wales template that I have on our tutorial resources. So this is what the first page of your lesson plan will look like for your assignment and for any of your placement lesson plans. Okay, and you can see it's broken up. You've got class and grade, date, you've got lots of different boxes. So see how in here there's little things that are written in italics? That gives you a hint as to what you need to put in each box. Okay, but when you do your own lesson plan, delete those italics. Okay, it gives you more room to write. Just leave the headings. See those headings that are in bold? Leave those and just delete. Like if you look at this assessment one, you would delete strategies which we use to assess learners, and you will list them and answer this, but just take that away. That's one thing I want to say. Okay, but you can see the cover page is kind of just presenting a bit of an overview of what your lesson is going to be like. And in a moment, I'll go through, I'll show you an example, and I'll go through what each, what you would write in each box. It's fairly straightforward, but you will see. The main thing on your front page is you're going to look at the syllabus and the outcomes. So again, depending on what you choose. So if you end up doing a maths lesson, I advise you for this assignment, purpose, choose a KLA that you're pretty confident with, even though you might not have taught it, but something that you're comfortable with in terms of your content knowledge. So if you're really good at maths and you think maths is something you will do well at teaching, then you might choose a maths lesson. It can be in any KLA for this assignment. Okay, when you get to your placement, your teacher will tell you which KLA you're teaching. Okay, so that's what you'll put there. But the syllabus would be the outcome, which we'll talk about in a moment. When you open a syllabus document, the outcomes are usually written in a code that looks like this. Okay, again, depending on what lesson you teach, is what kind of outcome you will use. So for example, if you are looking to teach a stage 3 class, this is an actual stage 3 class, and it's an English outcome. It's out of the English syllabus. Okay, so most of them are written like this. It starts with a code that's an EN. It's a 2-digit kind of 2-letter code. EN stands for English, so that is the KLA. If it's ST, it's science and tech. If it's maths, it's MA. If it's geography, it's GE. It just depends what one you're doing. 3 is the stage you're teaching. So this is stage 3, year 5 and 6. The outcome is the numbered outcome that it is, and the objective or the strand is the code after it. So that's there for you, and that goes across all curriculum in New South Wales, depending upon what stage you're in. But it might say EN. So if it said EN ES1 -6B, who can tell me what stage that would be and what KLA? So EN ES1. Who could tell me what that would be?
Isn't ES1 early stage 1, which would mean it's kindergarten?
Yes, you're exactly right, Marissa. So it would be early stage 1 kindy, and then it will go on. But it could be MA2, which would be maths. What stage would that be?
Stage 2, which would be years 3 and 4.
Yep, stage 2. And then it would have, this is your outcome. Next week, hopefully, I want you guys to try and this week have a look at some of the syllabus documents. And I want you for next week, even though you want to be working on your assignment, I will give you some time in next week's tutorial when we are face-to-face. And you might say, hey, Sarah, this is the KLA I'm doing. This is the syllabus outcome. Does this meet? And I'm happy to help you with that. Okay, but I want you to try and have at least your KLA and your topic and what outcome suits that topic for next week, if you haven't already done it. If you want to bring something else to show me, you can. I can't actually sit there with your assignment and go through it word for word, but I can say, yes, that outcome fits that KLA and you're definitely doing well and you're on the right track. Okay, this is an example. So you should actually write the outcome in full. If we go back here, the syllabus reference number and write out in full. So this is if you look here, the syllabus number that we just looked at, and then this is the outcome. So on your lesson plan, that's what you need to do, write the syllabus code and the whole outcome. You don't have to write all the indicators. So you have an outcome, which is like the umbrella. The indicators are if students can do all of these things or most of these things, they're achieving this outcome. Okay, so you're only worried about this, and you will include some indicators, but we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so on this box here, this one here, you would write that code and the outcome in full. Usually, you only need to write one outcome for one lesson. It's very hard to achieve more than one outcome in one lesson. Some teachers may tell you different, but for this assignment and even in your placement, I would only put one outcome. Unless your supervising teacher says, oh, well, it's meeting another outcome as well, then you can include that. There shouldn't be 10 outcomes listed there for one lesson. That's impossible. When you write a unit of work, which I don't want to confuse you, there's multiple outcomes because it's like a whole 10-week unit. Okay, so you only need one of those there. Okay, I'm going to show you now, this isn't the exact same if we look at this, but everything is pretty much there. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, I'll go back to the blank one. So if you were doing this, Jordan, I'm going to use your example because you were talking about your early stage 1 class. Okay, so let me stop sharing and see if I can type into this. Just bear with me. I'm hoping it will let me edit. I want to stop this. I want to stop the slideshow if it lets me. It's not going to let me. It is going to let me. Okay. So I'm going to type, we'll do it as a class and then it will kind of make a bit more sense to you. Where is my blank? Here it is here. Okay. I'm hoping I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. It won't let me go any bigger than that. All right. Please let me edit. It's not going to let me edit. That's okay. I might not be able to type in here, but I can at least, I can tell you what you would write in each box and you guys will understand. All right, so I'll do it in a slideshow again so you can see. All right, so in the class grade stage, Jordan, you would write, what's your class's name? Does it have like a K?
It's KWKY.
KW. So
KY,
if
yeah.
you would write in there, the class here would be KW. So leave that heading and you just write underneath KW. Grade is kindergarten. Or because it's kindergarten and they're on their own, Jordan. So in the syllabus ES1, early stage 1 is on its own. So you would just write KW early stage 1. If you were in a stage, say 2 class, and it was 2S, your grade might be year 3. So you might put grade 3, stage 2. Does that make sense, everyone? But if you're in a stage, so say you're in a year 3-4 class and it's a stage class, a composite class, you only need to write stage 2. So if you're in a stage 2 year 3-4 class, you would just write, it might be 3-4S stage 2. Don't stress too much over that. Okay, the date that you're going to be doing this lesson plan. So for your assignment purpose, you can just make up a date. time. So what time is the lesson going to start and what time is it going to finish? Think about that. You're not going to do a 4-hour lesson. Gosh, imagine a 4-hour lesson. Okay, think about your KLA that you're teaching. And, you know, if it's an English lesson, it might go for, say, an hour. Your lesson really shouldn't go more than an hour, I would say. For your prac, it may be different. You might do an 1.5-hour lesson or something, or it could be a 40-minute lesson. Okay, so use your own judgment when it comes to that. But a start time and a finish time. So it might be start at 9:15 a.m. and finish at 10:15 a.m. Key learning area, we just talked about that. So it might be English, might be maths, could be anything. If you're in a high school, it might be, you know, industrial arts, or it could be visual arts, whatever it is. The topic. So the topic isn't the key learning area. The topic is what you're doing in this key learning area. So if you were doing maths here, say we're looking more at Jordan's class again, we're in early stage 1, the key learning area might be maths. The lesson topic might be whole number, or it might be patterns and algebra, or it might be, it's usually you look in the maths syllabus in a primary school and it will be a strand. So it will say patterns and algebra, or it will say time. It could be volume and capacity. Okay, so look at the topic. Okay.
Sarah, can I just ask?
Sure.
So when we're doing the 2-week block, are we so say we're teaching, say, 3 lessons, like, because there's not maths for that particular year group every day. So we would expect to do 3 of these?
Yes. Was that you, Vivian? I can tell by your voice. I can't see you, but yes, you would. So do you mean 3 lessons over that week?
Yeah. So for example, and my next question is, I'm in a pair. So like, would we each have the same thing? Like, are we expected to, we were going to take 1 day each sort of thing and share it that way and have our own plans each, but that would mean we do half the work. So I don't know how you would want us to do sort of a lesson plan, or.
I know what you're saying. So you're team teaching.
Yeah.
And are you teaching every lesson together, or are you doing some on your own?
Well, we don't know yet. That's what we're going to see, depending on like the assessment, because for example, he said to us, what we're going to have, I think it was stage 5.2 or something like that. And he goes, he sees them 3 or 4 times a week. Can't remember off the top of my head. So we would each have to do a lesson plan for that class, even if we don't teach it. Like, even if we share, like one day is one person, one day is the next person, one day is one person.
Yeah, that's a good question, Vivian. I would talk to your supervising teacher about that, but I would recommend, as long as you're contributing and doing your own lesson plans, Vivian, I would write, maybe if you collaborate and your supervising teacher's happy with that, that's fine. But as long as you're kind of doing equal share. But yep. As you said, you might, if it's 4 lessons a week, Vivian, you might do 2 maths lessons and your partner might do 2 and you teach it together. I would try, if you're in a team teaching situation, to teach some on your own and just have them there as your support. Mm-hmm. So you might do 2 lessons a week, Vivian, where you take charge and whoever's with you kind of is your support. And then vice versa, he or she might take 2 lessons a week and you're there as their support.
But would we be expected to do 4 lesson plans, even if we're only teaching the 2?
I would probably have a copy of both. Maybe you plan 2 and your partner plans 2, but you both have a copy of them.
Okay, all right.
Because when we team teach in a school, you kind of collaborate to learn to teach. So, you know, you're following what they're doing, as long as you're both contributing and as long as you're both planning. But that's just for, say, maths there, Vivian. Are you in a high school, Vivian?
Yeah, I'm with Finest. She's actually in this class.
Oh, Finest. Well. Okay.
Yeah. We're in maths, and he didn't know. He's like, do you want to get 2 grades or do you want 1? What do you need? And I'm like, well, I don't even know.
Yeah. Are you doing another subject as well, or just maths?
Just maths.
Okay. So I remember you saying that he's teaching 3 days a week. Is that right?
He's doing he told us they're doing what's it called? They're sharing. So we have one teacher for 2 days, and yeah, so it's the same class, just 2 teachers.
Yeah. So you're only teaching maths, because is he a teacher that just does maths for different grades?
Yeah.
So I'd probably I'd probably see a few different grades if you can, but kind of stick to the grade I guess he teaches the most. Like, does he teach kind of like year 7 every day, or you don't know?
He has 3, I think 4. When we went last week, we sat in on 4, but he said he's definitely going to give us his year 9 class, year 10 class, I think it was. But I didn't know for this subject, the requirements, is it 1 or 2 lessons we have to teach? How many lessons do you want us to teach?
If you look in the guidebook, I'll go through it with you at the end, Vivian. In the guidebook, it tells you each day, kind of your 10-week block, what you should progress to.
Okay.
So the first couple of days is observation, and then it might say 1 session. So even though high school is a bit different, we'll have a look at the high school one before we go.
Okay.
But just as long as you followed the guidebook and it says, okay, you should be teaching by the end of it almost full days. So you would say to those teachers, all right, next Friday, what classes do you have? And the ones that you're comfortable teaching, you might plan to teach kind of the whole day on the last Friday. And that might mean you teaching, 5 periods, but if there's 2 of you sharing it, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might technically, Vivian, only need to write 2 lesson plans for that day, and Finest, you might write 2, but you're kind of teaching it together. Just try and, especially if your tertiary supervisor comes in, take charge. They'll want to see you teach, Vivian, on your own, and they'll want to see you, Finest, teach on your own. So make sure when that happens, you're both having, time teaching on your own.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll chat to the 2 of you at the end anyway, and I'll make sure that you're okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the professional standards, let me just check if they've got that in this one. They don't, but you can link it to, how we're looking at the EDET100 standards for teachers that I've shown you, and we looked at that in our first assignment. So you can look at the standard and the focus area on that document that aligns with this lesson. It only needs to be 1 or 2 standards that you might be meeting. Does everyone know what I mean when I say that? Someone's going, but I don't know who it is.
No, that was me. Like in terms of teaching standards, like, are you talking about like the
EDET100 standards? Yeah. So the 3.2.1s, you're going to be, the EDET100 standards are the ones that we're looking at in assignment 2 as well for your annotations. So it's just making a link. All you have to do is do the standard focus area. So you might go standard 2, 2.2.1, standard 3, 3.2.1. Okay, and you will be able to link a standard. These are the Australian, look here, the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, the EDET100. You'll be able to make a link to a few standards, because standard 2 is all about the content and how to teach it, and that's what you're doing in a lesson plan. You're understanding the content and you're teaching it. Okay, recent prior experience. Now, this is pretty open. This is just what you write about the class. So if you look at this example, have a look at this little blurb. This is the example I'm showing you. It looks slightly different, but in essence, it's the same. So this person has written, prior to this lesson, students have engaged in modelled and shared reading and writing sessions with a focus on planning and constructing simple procedural text for an intended audience. A text scaffold has been used as a resource source to support planning. Students are familiar with the text structure and language features of a procedure with specific focus on the use of action verbs. So this lesson plan is for a year 1 class, and they're going to write a procedure. So remember, a procedure is just how you do something. It's like a recipe. Okay. So you, in the prior experience box, you write, okay, you're not going to write prior experience when it comes to, say you're doing a maths lesson, how they work on the sporting field. That's got nothing to do with this lesson. In mathematics, what prior experience have they had before they've learnt this lesson? So for your assignment, you might make it up, which is okay. For your placement class, you can talk to your teacher and say, okay, in English, I'm teaching them about procedural text. What experience have they had with this? And he or she might say, okay, well, we've done this, this, and this. And that's what you would write in here. Okay, what's their prior experience when it comes to this topic? And, you know, how much do they need revision? Have they done lots? And this is kind of you just teaching them another component. What is it? And there's no right or wrong there because it's specific to that class. Okay, so we've got kind of all these little details are fine. This one says name of mentor, but on this one, this is the one you're using. It doesn't say that. You can write your name on the top if you like. Okay, let's have a look at this area here in the example. Remember, these are on the slides for you. So see how they've just put one outcome for this lesson. That's plenty. They've done the code and they've written what the outcome is. Okay. Indicators of learning, the learning intentions. So the WALT, remember we went through these. We are learning to. Okay. So if we look up here, it says in meaningful student language, so students can monitor their learning, link directly with syllabus outcomes, learning intentions. What will students know, understand, and be able to do as a result of the learning and teaching? So this only needs to be a few points. Okay, so you might do 3 or 4 learning intentions and then 3 or 4 success criteria. So remember, the success criteria is how will students know they have achieved these intentions? These are what they're intending to learn, but really, how will they know this? So if you look at the next one, the example, the learning intentions are independently plan only. So this lesson is just for the planning. It's not even writing the procedure, it's just planning it. Plan a simple procedure on how to brush your teeth. Note to be composed, reviewed, and shared in small groups with year one peers at a later time. And another intention, they're going to learn how to use action verbs to begin sentences. Okay, so they just need to be indicators and intentions. Specifically linked to this, what am I trying to get them to do in this lesson? What are the indicators that are going to show that they can do it? And this doesn't have success criteria, but in this blank one, we would expect you to have success criteria. So again, like how will the students know they've achieved these intentions? And you can just list a couple of those. Okay, so far it's pretty basic. Okay, we move on now to assessment. What am I looking for? So you as a teacher in this section need to go, okay, for me to know if this lesson has been a success, what do I need to see? Okay, so in this lesson, remember they're writing that procedure of how to brush their teeth. So what are you looking for? Only a few things are fine. Okay, so it doesn't have to be formal assessment. It can just be observations. Okay, so you're looking for students are able to independently plan a procedure on how to brush your teeth with the option of using a scaffold. That's like a criteria, like a table that would help them sort out their plan. Students can apply their understanding of action verbs in creating a plan of a procedural text by including the language within the draft. Okay, and then they put another little assessment thing. So you might add in there, okay, what am I going to do to record their achievements? Okay, you're not always going to do that in every lesson, but for this lesson, you should. So you might put, this person's put annotations of individual progress, one-on-one conferencing about the text structure of procedure. Or you might put, if it's, they've written a narrative, you might have a rubric. You know, it's a make-believe lesson a lot of the time. So you might have a rubric that you can assess it on, or you might be recording observations, or you might be collecting work samples and marking them. So it's just you talking about how am I going to really see if they know what I've taught. Okay, It could be questioning. You might put questioning and have some specific questions in there. Okay, again, any safety issues, it's nothing major, but you should think about it. Okay, movement, are you doing a PE lesson? What is it? There's limited space. Just think about any, and always put something in there, even if you make it up. Okay, so any sort of safety issues and resources. Now, this should be detailed. Every single resource you as a teacher will need to teach this lesson should be listed in here. Okay, it goes from, you or the students. You're not going to put my teaching bell to ring when I want them to listen. It's specific to that lesson. So if there's a worksheet, try to steer away from worksheets for this assignment. It might be how your teacher works at school, but for this assignment, think of activities that are, engaging, hands-on. It's not just giving them a worksheet and going, off you go and do that. Think of a really cool activity they could do. So any sort of resources that students need to use in this lesson to be able to achieve it. Let's go back up to the blank document. Okay, so we've covered all of those areas. Does anyone have a question about the cover page and what they need to put in there for their lesson plan? Good to know. Okay, I hope remember, the main important thing is to get that one outcome that really suits what you're teaching, and to really think about what do I want them to learn in this lesson. It's only that one lesson you're doing. Don't worry about anything else. Okay, then we move on to the bulk of the lesson plan, which I'm going to just stop sharing this slideshow now, and I'm going to open the Word document that you'll all have in front of you. So let me share that with you. Where are we? Here. All right. Okay, hopefully you can see that. All right, so this is the topic, the cover page we just went through. Then it just goes on to the sequence. And this is the easiest part. Well, not easiest, but this is just what step-by-step things do you need to do in the lesson. So your lesson will be broken up into 3 sections. There's usually an introduction, which is just not too long. And then the development is the main body of the lesson, the bulk of the lesson, and then the conclusion of the lesson, or the closure. Okay, and all you do in this section is you can delete this stuff, but leave the headings, and you write the timing. So think about your introduction. If you were teaching, say, a 1-hour literacy lesson, and you were doing the lesson we were just looking at, you were looking at procedures and getting them to write a procedure on how they brush their teeth in the morning, how long do you think their introduction would be? How long would the introduction to the lesson be? Who wants to have a guess? There's no exact right or wrong, but in a roundabout, what's your opinion on that?
If it was a lesson on brushing teeth.
So you're getting them to write a draft on brushing their teeth in stage 1. So year 1 and 2. How long would your intro be?
Maybe about 2 to 3 minutes. If it's about brushing your teeth, it should be relatively simple.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Jordan and Marissa. I would say it would be a bit longer because
wouldn't you need to introduce the concept of writing a report and what would need to go into writing a report?
Yes, you're right. So I know what you're saying there, Jordan and Marissa, when you brush your teeth, when you talk about that, but it includes the whole introduction. So getting them into the room, sitting them down, talking about what they're going to be learning about today, talking about learning intentions, introducing the concept. So you might go, what are your questions going to be? So you might say, okay, who brushes their teeth every day? Put your hand up. Okay, tell me, who can stand up and tell me how they brush their teeth? What color is your toothbrush? Getting them engaged and getting that question time happening. And then going into explaining what you're asking them to do in the bulk of the lesson. Okay, so introductions usually are around about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing for you guys, because you're not experienced teachers. It's very hard to kind of get your head around how long something should go for. But that's what you're going to learn on your placement. You'll see all of that. Sometimes it can be a 5-minute introduction. So you're not wrong there, Jordan and Marissa. It can be a 5-minute intro, depending upon what the lesson is. But think about your timing. Now, talk about, I'll show you an example in a moment. What in point form, what are the things that you're looking at in the introduction? So your subheading here might be something like, let me just get my dot points out. Oh, it's going to do it in blue. I hope you guys can see this. Now I'm editing. Why is it still? It's because I'm editing. It's all right. It'll be in blue. But for instance, you might do. Is it going to let me do it? So you might say introduce. Or you might even call it something like question time. So over here would be just like a little subheading, and then here would be your dot. It's not letting me do dot. Oh, it is letting me do dot points. So question time, you might put students. Sorry, it's underlined. I don't know why it is, but anyway, that's what it's doing. I'll try again. It's annoying me. Students sit in circle on mat. You might put lead a discussion. Sorry, guys, on the importance of brushing your teeth. And you can even put specific, I don't want that, questions there. So you might put who brushes their teeth? You might put, this is just very blasé, guys. I'm just doing this very quickly. What color is your toothbrush? What is the first thing you do when you brush your teeth? So you can give yourself little kind of questions there that you would actually ask the students to help jog your memory. Okay, then over here might be another little subheading. So you might put modeling. Okay, and then here you would put all of the steps that you would do to model writing this procedure. So you might say write, or you might put modeling joint construction. So over here, again, I'm not going to write them, but you would do, this editing tool is very weird. You might do all of the steps that you would do to model this joint construction. So, you know, or you could put get students to mime how they brush their teeth. And then you can go on to your modeling. So it's literally, see how I'm doing it kind of step by step to show you that's how specific it needs to be. It actually even needs to be written better than that. That was very brief. So over here, question time, you know, resources and organization, you would put things like, it doesn't need to be anything major. You might need the interactive whiteboard, because you might have images, like yours is going to be more detailed. You might have images of toothbrushes up on the interactive whiteboard, whatever it may be. Interactive whiteboard, you might say students, you can do it as students, will be sitting on the mat in a class circle. To see how that's resources and all, but you wouldn't need to put anything else there. Then you might, when you go to the modeling and joint construction, you might say you need, you might do it on a big piece of butcher's paper. So you might say butcher's paper, markers. You get the gist of what I'm saying. Okay, so you kind of literally, that's all you do with these steps. and you put the timing in here, it might be 15 minutes. Okay, and this should be, yours is going to be a lot more detailed than that. Then you go to the development. Okay, but it just shows you, you have to list the resources, organization, and the steps you would take. So if I was picking this up, I could go, all right, I've got to put the students in a circle on the mat. I've got to go, all right, lead a discussion. These are the sorts of things I need to ask. Who brushes their teeth? What color is your toothbrush? You'd have better questions than that. What is the first thing you do when you brush your teeth? You know, show me how you put your toothpaste on. You squeeze. What kind of words could we use for squeeze? Let's look at some describing words and all of those sorts of things. Okay, but that's the bulk of the lesson plan. Then you do the same with your development, depending upon what the activity is. You go through the same steps, and then you do the same for the closure. You put, closure is usually the shortest. It's usually about a 5-minute closure. The bulk of your time, so say this was an hour lesson, this would probably be 15 minutes. And then I'd probably go like 40 minutes here. And then 40 minutes. Then down here, so what's that? Did I say 15? Yeah. So 15, that's 55 minutes. And then I'd go like 5 minutes for the closure. In a high school, it's probably going to look a bit different, but your teacher will help you with timing of lessons there. So that's the steps. Let me show you the example. I hope this is helping all of you. I know it's me babbling, but I'm hoping this makes sense to all of you. Let me just share again. It's not giving me an example. That's okay. There's no example of this, but do you kind of get what I'm saying when I say to write all of the steps? I can't exactly write it for you because your topic's different, but everything you do. And this is where marks are awarded in this assignment. Be creative. Okay, so think who's got kind of, we can share ideas here. Who's kind of got an example of what topic they might be looking for, what topic they're looking to do for this assignment for their lesson plan? Has anyone thought about a topic they may cover? Or has anyone been on their placement and they know the first lesson they're going to teach? Their first formal lesson yet? That's okay. No one does. That's all right. Let me throw out a topic. I'm just trying to think. So
we were told our topic. Ours is going to be data.
Data, great one, Vivian. And what grade are you going to be teaching?
I believe
it was year 10. Year 10 was data, yeah. And year 9 was indices, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you know kind of what activities you're going to do?
Not yet. I mean, it's still what, like 5 weeks away.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you're doing something along the lines of data in a high school or in a primary school, high school is a lot different. I don't want to see, you know, try to steer clear of worksheets. A lot of high school teachers will just, especially maths, I know I'm generalizing here, but we'll just give them piles of worksheets. So Vivian,
no, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
That's not general, that's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most high school students I talk to, that happens. So Vivian and Finance, try and give them, no matter what grade you teach, something hands-on, something that they can, you know, go around the school and find out if it's data, get them to collect data for something. And I mean, I know indices and stuff are a bit more technical. That's when they really need to, you know, get their heads down and bums up. I get that. But try and make at least part of their lesson a little bit hands-on. Okay. And definitely in a primary school, if you guys are out there in primary pracs, they need to be as hands-on as you can and as interesting, because students lose focus. It's okay to use a worksheet if you have to, especially if your supervising teacher tells you to. But for this assignment, this goes for all of you. I would steer clear of that, and I would do something that's more engaging and hands-on. So Jordan, if you're in early stage 1 and you're doing maths, you might do volume and capacity. Okay, that's all learning about the volume of different, you know, containers and things like that in early stage 1. So for a lesson like that, you can do something so hands-on where you as the teacher might demonstrate, you might have different sized containers and say, okay, I've got a big jug and I've got a big bowl, and kind of, you know, make them look one bigger than the other, but they may hold the same amount of water. And you might get different colored water. You know, you might put food dye in the water and say, okay, who thinks this container's bigger? Put your hands up. All right, this is kindy. You know, who thinks this one's bigger? Let's demonstrate. Okay, so let's pour all the water into one. All right, this one's full, make it a clear container. Okay, now when I tip this into this container, who thinks that this water is going to fill this container? Get their opinions and do it, and see, you know, it might only fill half of the container, but to them, it might look like that container's the same size. But, you know, and then get them to go off and find containers around the room, and they might fill it with, I don't know, beads or something. You might have different containers with beads, or just getting a container and guessing the capacity of it, or something with time, you know, measuring lengths. In any primary classroom, from whether it's kindy to year 6, you know, a length lesson is really good. Get them to go measure things in the school. In stage 3, it might be using meter rulers, but in kindy, it might be using how many hand spans. Get your hands and measure how many times your hand fits along the edge of that desk. Okay, and recording. So give them an activity for this assignment that's quite enjoyable. Vivian and Finest, especially someone like you, you're going to be doing, you know, year 10 maths and stuff, which is a bit hard, but you might do a lesson plan for primary for this assignment. You can do that, or choose the school you're in, especially if you're there quite often and you know what they're like. You can do maths, but you might target more year 7, where you can do some more hands-on things with them, but the same sort of concept that you might be doing with your supervising teacher. I hope that makes sense. We're going to keep going. So at the end of your lesson, this is your evaluation. So I encourage you, they're just, you know, a series of questions as to what you could cover after you finish your lesson. So, you know, to what extent did the learners achieve? Describe the evidence that you might have for this. Outline the follow-up for this lesson, okay? And these are questions that will really help you reflect. And these are questions that your supervising teacher might ask you at the end of your lesson to see kind of, you know, how successful do you think you were? Okay, so that's the lesson plan. Does anyone have a question about the lesson plan?
Is the lesson plan something we can actually also teach in class? Like, should we be doing that as a lesson?
Yes, so these lesson plan, you know, the template I just showed you, the one that's up for this week, use that lesson plan for your prac. So whenever your teacher says, all right, Lauren, next week you're going to teach a year 6 English lesson on punctuation and grammar, this is your topic, you would write that lesson plan. So the blank document I just showed you, you would fill that in for your lesson and give it to your supervising teacher and say, this is my lesson plan, and get them to look at it. And they will give you some feedback. They'll say, okay, have you thought about this? And use that lesson plan, Lauren, when you're teaching. Have it at the front of the room, and you will be nervous. So you can look at it and go, all right, where am I going next? Tick it off, scrap it off as you go. And they're the things that will go into your teaching plan, your folder. So when the uni tertiary supervisor comes out, you can show them what you've been teaching. Does that make sense there, Lauren?
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
the other ones we make, like for our lessons that we teach, do they have to be uploaded anywhere, or is that just for ourselves?
That's just for yourself. As long as you've got them in a folder and they're with you all the time when you're on placement, that's fine. So by the end of your, you know, placement, 10 days, you'll have, I would say, at least 10 lesson plans in there, if not a few more. Your supervising teacher might say, all right, I need the lesson plan that you're going to be teaching the day before you teach it so I can look at it, because they might want to check it. They will help you though. The first year they will sit with you. They might say, all right, what are you comfortable teaching? And you might say, okay, I'm in a kindergarten class, can I teach some maths? And they might say, right, well, on my plan, tomorrow we're teaching time, how to tell the time. And they might say, Lauren, are you comfortable teaching that? And you say, even if you're not, you say, I haven't taught it, but I'm definitely happy to give it a go. Can you give me some advice on what sorts of things I could do? And they'll say, you could get them to make an analog clock. And then you could get them to go around the room or draw pictures of what they do in the morning and draw pictures of what kindergarten's very basic. What do they do in the morning? What do they do at lunchtime? And then what do they do before they go to bed? Because time is all just relating it to their real life in kindy. So they'll say, this is the concept, write a lesson plan, give it to me. And then they'll say, okay, this looks good. Do you think half an hour is enough to do that activity? Maybe you need to give them more time. And they'll give you that sort of feedback. And then you teach from it. Your lesson plan won't go to plan. It very rarely does. You'll miss things. You'll think that something that you go, oh, that'll take half an hour, could take an hour. Okay, but that's how we learn. Okay, so definitely for this assignment, that's the lesson plan template you need to use. We're going to move on to the assignment now. That's the lesson plan template you use for this assignment, but it's also the lesson plan template you use for your prac. So you need to keep that. Everyone download it and save it so you've got it. You can even print them off. Like if you're at school one day, what I would do, I'd print off a whole heap of them. When you sit down, you'll probably sit down each day. Oh, my internet's playing up. Guys, turn the internet off. I just told my kids to turn my internet off. Hello? My kids are home and they're like all on, they're like, oh yeah, mum's not watching, I'll turn my devices on.
Well, I'll just wait.
Yeah, I think she's just talking, so yeah.
I was telling my kids to turn the internet off. I'm like, get off. I don't know why, whenever they get home, I'm in the Blue Mountains, I'm in the sticks, my internet decides to play up. I can see it's unstable. It's telling me that it is. Can you hear me, Marissa?
I can hear you. I was just wondering, because I went to the placement advice tab on EDET100, where it's supposed to have those links to lesson plan templates, and they don't seem to work for me. I don't know if it works for anyone else, and I was just trying to figure out if they do work, because there only seems to be one that works, and I'm just, like every single other one doesn't seem to work, and I don't understand what be going on there, because it says that the broken links will be repaired soon, but I mean, I tried checking this a few weeks ago and it's still doing exactly the same thing.
No worries, Marissa. I think
like if you go to the placement advice tab and then you went down to writing lesson plan, learning experience plans.
Okay, so what I would say, definitely for all the primary and secondary students that are in here, use the blank template that I've used today. That is fine. Oh, Marissa, you're frozen. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yep. Marissa, because you're early childhood, I'm going to find out for you which lesson plan template you can use. And I think they may even say you can use this same one as us. Your syllabus your syllabus outcomes would look a bit different though. But I will definitely, I'm going to message.
I know that we've got hundreds that we've got.
Oh, I lost you there for a moment, Marissa.
Can you hear me? Or
I can hear you now. I can hear you. Sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. Technology happens. I know that there's an early childhood tab that's been recently kind of put into the EDET100 unit on Leo. That's got some stuff that I need to go through it properly. I was only there for one of the Zoom things that pertain to. And I know that they're going to have another Zoom meeting tonight at 8 p.m. if you wanted me to forward that to you, just then you know what's going on as well, maybe.
That would be
Maybe I
great,
can,
Marissa.
yeah, just then, yeah, you can be present for that as well and see what's being discussed and what's going on there. So I'm going to go over those bits of content there, but I'm just trying to find those templates for
The lesson plan.
yeah, for those lesson plans. Yeah, just because with early childhood, it's very much based on play pedagogy, and yeah, and and I guess lesson plans would probably eventuate a bit differently, because in curriculum for primary and secondary school, like you've got dot points that you need to meet. They're outlined as like, okay, this is what you need to do. Whereas yeah, the EYLF is more about like, these are things that, like, these are kind of areas that will, you know, kind of be covered. I think.
Yeah,
I'm just
no,
quickly
that makes
switching up.
sense.
Lost my headphones have died. But yeah, but
No, that
yeah,
makes
so there's
sense, Marissa. If you have a look at that folder for me, and I'll go on and have a look. You're my only early childhood student, so but I will make sure I do get the answer for you as to what lesson plan template you need to use. And I'll make sure that you understand that template. I can go through it with you.
Cool bananas. Yeah, so there is an early childhood tab within the EDT 100.
100.
Yeah.
I'll have a
yeah.
look on there, and you have a look there too, Marissa, and familiarize yourself with it. And I'll have a look as well and see if I can see it there. And if I can't, I will let them know and see which one they would like you to use.
Yeah, and the person that's for EDEC 111, which is our early childhood unit, like my teacher, who's also looking after placement a little bit, Susan Yu, if you wanted someone to contact.
I know Susan. I don't know her, but I know of her. So yeah. I'll ask her. I might email her as soon as I get off here, Marissa. So I'll email her.
And the link as well.
Yeah, and I will find out from her.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marissa. You. But I promise I will find out for you. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'm just going to check the chat here. Yeah. Lara, that's totally fine. I will mark you off the roll. Lara may have left. I think she did. That's okay. Let me just get Lara here. Okay, now, can you just give me a thumbs up if you did watch the recording of the assignment? Jordan, Lauren, anyone else? Taylor. Okay, so I really need all of you to, where is Lara's name? I'm just looking for Lara's name on here. Where is she? It's okay, I'll find her. Sorry guys, I'm talking, there she is. I'm just talking out loud. I really need you all to watch that recording because it's got a step-by-step guide as to how to submit and make your portfolio. So assignment 2 is on a digital portfolio. It's not just a Word doc. Okay, you actually make the portfolio. So you'll see that the LIC really goes through how to make that portfolio and how to add things in it.
I was also going to say, in addition to that, if you can't watch the recording, there is a lecture booklet as well under, I think it's either the assessment title or something like that, where it basically does everything she says from the video, but distilled into a booklet form.
Thanks, Jordan. So it's kind of a written form and you can follow the steps. Thanks, Jordan. So that I'm not going through that because she's done that, and that would take me a long time to go through with you. So that's why you really need to look at it. The main things I wanted to share with you were the, I'm just going to open the unit outline, go through the assignment, but I think once you watch the recording as well, you will have a greater understanding of the assignment. And people that have already watched it, please feel free to ask me any questions that you're not sure about, even after that meeting yesterday. Now, sorry, I've lost my Leo page. I'm just opening this, guys, and then I'll share my internet. There's something going on.
If we have questions about the assessment, we can just ask you, right?
Of course you can, Jordan. Guys, just bear with me. I'm just going to go and tell my children to get off their devices. I'll be one moment. Sorry, guys, I'm back. I've kicked them off, so I'm hoping my service doesn't get affected now. Okay, so I'm just going to open up the unit outline. Actually, no, you know what? I will show you what she shows you on the video. So if you go to assessment tile, the assessment tile, what is going on with my service? There's something really majorly wrong. I'm scrolling down, and right towards the bottom, it'll say assessment 2, and then there's a submission, and then below that, assess A2 instructions, and then there's a tab that says assessment task 2 detailed instructions. Okay, it's about halfway down the page. I'm going to open that. Okay, I'll share with you. Where are we? Here we are. Okay, this is what it looks like, and it's got lots of things there for you. So it talks about setting up your portfolio, what to include, submitting the assignment, all of those things. So there's examples, setting up your portfolio. So they're the things you need to look at. Okay, part A is an observation or a situational analysis. Okay, so let me just open these and I'm going to reshare with you. I'm hoping it works. Okay. If it wants to open, it is opening for me. Okay. Can you see that there, Marissa? Yeah. Okay. So part A is an observation. It's worth 15 marks. So to clarify with you, and this will be clarified once you watch the recording, if you are on placement and you're comfortable enough with your class to make an observation on that class, then that is the class kind of you will use for your assignment. If you've only just got a replacement and you're not too familiar with them, you can make your own situational analysis. Okay, you would make, it's like in essence making up a class. Okay, and here it says, please note you will not be penalized if you use a situational analysis. Okay, because that's not your fault if you haven't had a lot of time with them. Okay, and it says here for you, Marissa, early childhood, please be aware that observation is a child observation. You know, in early childhood, how you do single child observations? It's not one of those. It's actually kind of for a small group of around about 8 children. And she talks about that in the recording. You'll see her talk about that. Okay, so for this assignment purposes, it's for a bigger group. If you're in primary and secondary, it would be an observation of your whole class, okay? Or a situational analysis of your whole class. Okay, just bear with me, and this goes into it in a bit more detail, but she does do all of this. Okay, again, let me just go down. So in this observation, so if you decide to use your prac class, you're going to call part A an observation. If you decide not to use your prac class, you're going to call your part A a situational analysis. And she explains that, okay? So in essence though, if you decide to use your class or you don't, you have to cover these 2 things. The main 2 things are your description of the setting of the school, okay? Now, I've taken notes on this as well. So you need to see these little dot points. So it's just, I can't remember how many words she said for this. Let me look. I did write it down. Part A. Where's my part A? Okay, here we go. So I think in total, part A, (300 words. I think it's about 450 words, part A, but she does specify that. So it's just written in paragraph form, okay, and submitted onto your portfolio. So the two things you need to do is a description of the setting. So if you're already at a school, you would research the center or the school that you're at, the web search. And you're giving me a picture of where you're at. Okay, what's in the school? You know, is it a high ESL school? Is it how many learners are at the school? You know, are there 450 kids at the school? How many staff are at the school? So you're kind of giving like a snapshot of the school. Okay. Is there certain policies? You don't have a lot of words, so you wouldn't list the whole policy, but talk about their mission or their vision. Okay. Don't forget to reference in this whole section. You're referencing the literature. So you're referencing the website that you might get this information from. If you decide to not use your prac school, you can choose a school. She did specify that. So you might think of a school that you know, or a school in your area that you're interested in teaching, or just choose a school. Okay. It can be primary, secondary, or early childhood, depending on what you want to focus on. And you do the same thing and you research it. Okay. You get all of that information from their website. Talk about its environment, locations, logistical details, bell times, recess, lunch, all of those things you would find out if you're on your placement. So see these dot points, make sure you cover all of those in that first part. Okay, learners' cultural or socioeconomic backgrounds. Facilities in the school, you know, is there a special ed unit? Is there, you know, what kind of resources do they have? Do they have an amazing gymnasium? Do they have, you know, is it very limited in terms of its resources? Is it an older school? Is it a younger school? Is it open learning, or are they closed classrooms? How does, just a logistical overview of the whole school. So that's the first part. And then you look at the learners. Okay. So you would cover, this is about, I think about 100 and let me just look. She did say this. Setting. Yeah. So setting, she looked at about 150 words for this setting. If it's longer, it doesn't matter. Okay, it can be a bit longer. And then the learners. Okay, so the learners is you looking at your class. So if you're in a placement and you're going to use your class, you would talk about the year level and their age. The learning area that you're going to focus on for your lesson plan. Okay, why are you focusing on that area? Focus of the lesson experience and connect it to relevant curriculum. So this is where you'll talk about outcomes and things. It's still an academic piece of writing. So if you're saying, I'm going to be teaching an early stage 1 maths lesson that links, you know, that is ES1's, whatever it is, this links in because of this, and you would reference the syllabus document that you get that outcome from. So always reference what you put. This is an important one, the student learner characteristics in this class. Okay. What kinds of students are in your class? Are there, as I said, ESL students? Are there students that are gifted and talented? Are there students that need lots of support? Are there students that, you know, have high anxiety levels? Is there a particular cultural makeup, you know, of your class? It just is a snapshot. So you need to look at part A as giving me a snapshot of your school and your class. Okay. If you can use your class, great. If you can't, don't stress, make it up. Okay. You don't need to explain that. You just make it up. As long as you cover all of these dot points, you will be fine. As long as you reference where you're getting this information from. So the school's website, the curriculum documents, if you make a link to a standard, that's great. So reference that document to give me a snapshot. So it's either going to be, remember this, and you're going to call it an observation if it's at the school you're at. If you're not at the school, you're going to call it a situational analysis. Okay, because a situational analysis, we actually use them a lot in teaching. They're kind of we make up the situation and go, all right, if we were to have this class, how would we tackle it? Okay, does anyone have a question about that? Awesome. Okay, she does explain it, but that's how I explain it in my words. All right.
Part 2, where we're talking about the students.
Yes.
Should we specifically like give an example of a few?
That's a great idea. Good question there, Lauren. Yes.
Okay.
Don't use their full names or anything, but you say, for instance, there's a child in the class that, I don't know, comes from, she is Vietnamese, like Jordan was talking about. She speaks very limited English, blah, 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 blah. She has strengths when it comes to mathematics, but when it comes to any speaking or comprehension tasks, she has very limited understanding. And you might even say, the teacher in this classroom gives this student blah, 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 blah. So yes, you can use specific examples.
Okay.
It makes it even more, I think, real.
Yeah. I also asked, they said we need to get permission from the students' parents or carers to observe them. What was the best way to like do this? I saw that there was a form on Wheel, but I couldn't find it. They just stated that it was on Wheel.
Yeah, I don't think she said you had to do that there, Lauren.
Okay.
I would talk to your supervising teacher about that if you use your class, but it should be fine. You're not going to be using names and things. It's probably more if you were at a school where they've required that.
Yeah.
If that happens, let me know and I will find that form for you.
Okay, thank you.
On that question, from what I heard about that, isn't it like the supervising teacher gives you a student to like do it for as well? Like essentially like, oh, here's a student, go, and then I'll send the like paper to their parents. Like, isn't it like that? I was told it was like that.
If you do more of a focused observation, Jordan, like say you choose to focus on 4 learners within your class, yes. But I would encourage you, are you planning, Jordan, to use your observation for your prac class? Or are you going to make up one?
I thought I had to use my observation for my prac class.
Yep. Okay, so I would advise you, Jordan, to do it more as an overall, your whole class. And give like it's like giving a description and a detailed insight into what's in your classroom. Who are you teaching? What are the challenges that you might face as a teacher? And how are you going to cater for them? Does that make sense? But if you're she does talk about, there is something, I will go and have a look. There was something here I did see, because I know what you're talking about. I think it was Lauren that was talking about that. Let me just go back. I will find it, but I remember her talking about that in the recording. So have a look at what she says about that in the recording, but I know she did touch on it. There's a little slideshow here that talks about developing a situational analysis. So if you decide not to use your prac class, this will give you some hints as to the best way to make it up. Okay.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
This gives it. So again, if you don't want to use your prac class, you don't have to. Okay. If you're more comfortable, making up a situation and thinking about, you might go, I really want to do this lesson plan, and I'm going to make up a class that, that lesson plan will kind of fit in with, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's part A. All right, part B. I'm just making sure, hang on, part A. Oh, she did say put a reference list for each section. Okay, so you should have a reference list at the end of each section for your portfolio. So a reference list for part A, a reference list for part B, and a reference list for part C. Okay. Remember, a reference list is anything you're referring to, any information that you've retrieved that you're referencing in text. Okay. I've written some notes. I'm making sure I've covered everything. So yeah, the main thing is you're doing in part A, the setting, the observation of the setting, the observation of the learners. That's what you need to remember. Once you've done that situational analysis or your observation, all of that info is going to determine what you put in your lesson plan. Okay, so based on that group of learners you've got, you've outlined who they are, what they need. Then you go, okay, I've got this group of learners, I'm going to plan a lesson for them. And you do what we just did, how we went through the lesson plan, and you make up a lesson to cater for that class. It's one lesson. Choose a KLA that you're interested in. Make it engaging. Think of the learners in your room. Okay, so if you've got students that are high ESL needs, what are you going to do for those students to be able to allow them to achieve? Okay, so you should think about that and plan your lesson around that. Do you have children with high behavioural needs? Okay, so when you're looking at the organisation of your lesson, is it going to be independent where you expect them just to go off and do it on their own, or is it going to be a very structured lesson? Okay, so that's where your marks are. How well does your lesson plan link to the learners that you're actually teaching? Okay, so your lesson plan, we've been through that. It's informed by part A, so it all links. All right, so you've got the lesson plan, we've been through that. Do we have any questions so far?
The lesson plan that they've put in the portfolio is slightly different to the one that you were showing us. Is like, should we just use yours?
Yeah, I've spoken with Chris. We've decided here at Strathfield we're going to use the one we looked at today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So that's fine. That's for primary and secondary. If you're early childhood, which is only Marissa, I will find that out for you, Marissa. But definitely all Strathfield students or, you know, North Sydney students are using the lesson plan format that we went through today. Okay, any other questions so far? Next week, I'll give you some times and you can say, hey, Sarah, I'm doing this lesson on this. This is a bit of an outline of my class. I might get you to share it with one another and say, this is my class. This is my lesson. This is my topic. This is the activity I'm thinking of doing. What are your thoughts? And I'm happy to give you some ideas. Okay. You can definitely do that. And it's good to share it with one another as well. Okay. So part C is your annotation. So part C, you will see, let me just find it down here. Oh, here's the permissions. We're just talking about that. It talks here about the permissions. So if you're doing observations, there's a form on will, but she does talk about it. I'm pretty sure she said it's only if required. Okay, but they're all the information's here, but I highly doubt, unless you're using full names and things, it doesn't matter. You're just doing like an overview of the class. Okay, let's keep moving on. I'll get to part B. Again, look at all of this. This is what we just went through them. Okay, it gives you some tips on writing lesson plans. Try and put some differentiation in there. If you've got a learner, like you might put, say you've got, you've got a little Vietnamese girl. Put her, give her a name, a fake name. And, in your lesson plan, you might put actual specific steps that you would do for that little girl. Her name might be Sarah, and you might say, and write it in red somewhere on your lesson plan. Sarah, I would, when it comes to writing the procedure, you would give her sentences and she might have to cut them and put them into order or something like that. So think about how you can add some extra things in your lesson plan that would cater for your specific learners. Okay. She gives you a few tips on how to word something, more efficiently. She will go through, just watch the video and she'll show you all of this. I just wanted to check part C for you before we go. Part C, come on, part B, it's still, see here's early childhood here, Marissa, so it'll talk a little bit more about that and she does go through this. So have a look at that. Let's keep going. I just want to get to part C for you. Part C, annotations. So we look at, there's standards, there's each page will be set up where it has standard 2.1, 2, 3, and 3 from standard 3. So here you need to get the EDET100 document. They're the professional standards for teachers that we've looked at. And you need to make connections and write an annotation for each. And she talks about this. So an annotation is a justification. I want you to remember that word. These annotations are only 100 words each, which 100 words is nothing. It's a few sentences that talks about how you met this standard. So for instance, standard 2.1, let me quickly find you what standard 2.1 is. Just bear with me. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I'll get the document up if it wants to open for me. Okay, standard 2.1, 452. Sorry, I'm just opening it, guys. Just bear with me. Here it is here. Okay, standard 2.1, please hurry up and open for me. Okay, standard 2.1. I'll just share this with you. I've just opened up the document for you. Okay, so all you do in part C is you go, okay, standard 2.1. Remember, this is a 3-digit code. Sometimes it can be written in a 2-digit code, which is fine as well. So 2.1, the standard is demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the concepts, substance, and structure of the content and teaching strategies of the teaching area. So you need to justify how you're achieving this standard through writing your lesson plan. And it's just a few sentences. You would say something along the lines of, clearly my lesson plan demonstrates the knowledge and understanding of the content. You can see by me doing this activity, whatever it is, I did this, this, and this, which demonstrated that I was able to successfully implement strategies for students to understand the content, and you be specific with what you did. It's in first person because you're talking about what you did to achieve that standard. And there's 6 of them listed there. When you set up your portfolio, it will do that for you. And you just do one annotation for each of those 6 standards. It's 100 words. And it asks you to provide evidence. And on the recording, you'll see that she said evidence can be like a snapshot of your lesson plan. You might take a photo of one certain section of your lesson plan and highlight it and put that as your evidence and say, as you can see, this shows this, this, and this. You know, if you're talking about, say, for instance, the content, you can highlight, you can snapshot the outcome that you chose or the learning intentions and say, these learning intentions clearly link to this outcome. They directly show this, this, and this. And therefore, through me putting this in my lesson plan, I'm achieving this standard. But she gives you lots of tips as to how to write an annotation. And she said things like other evidence can be like you might have a recording of you teaching it, or you might have a recording of you explaining the concept, but snapshots from your lesson plan are fine to really highlight that you're achieving these standards through writing this lesson plan. Does that make sense? And it's just literally, I think it's 6 standards they ask you to cover. Let me have a look. I've got so many things open here. Here they are here. Okay, so here they are here. These are the standards that are on your portfolio, and these are in the unit outline as well. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 annotations of 100 words each, and evidence to show that. Okay, so what it is, it's you making links. And you're saying, this is my lesson plan. This is what I put into my lesson plan, and therefore it's showing that I'm meeting this standard. And all of those standards are pretty much about teaching strategies and content, which is very easy to link your lesson plan to. There's the EDET100 standards there that she's put a hyperlink to. She shows you, so they're like content, selection, and all. So why did you select certain content for that topic? what was your assessment strategy? So there's a box that says assessment strategies. What did you use in that lesson? And then there's learning goals. So you would snapshot the learning goal section. Teaching strategies. So in your organization column, you might put some certain organizational and teaching strategies in there that you can really highlight. Okay. So yes, have a look at the recording, and if it's still a bit blurry, I would watch it again and it will all make sense. But go through that green book, go through the assessment to detailed strategies, which will help you a lot. I'm just looking on the chat. Some people had to leave, which is fine. I know a lot of you need to leave. So what I want you to do for next week, yeah, Lauren's put 150 words part A and 300 words part A2. Thank you, Lauren, for putting that. So that's for that observational section. Lauren's left, that's fine. I can tick Lauren off there. So hopefully, do you feel like you're a little bit, you understand lesson planning a bit further now? Good, that was my aim. You guys can go, please, next week. I know Vivian, I'll have a quick chat to you guys. Marissa, have a look at that stuff and email me, and I'll email Chris as well, and he'll get back to me, and Susan, I'll email Susan for you and find out
probably better to email Susan than it would be Chris. Yeah, about early childhood. Yeah, Susan would be the better one to contact. About that. But yeah, there is a tab in EDET100 called early childhood. If you're able to access that, I'm not sure if you are able to access that, but that has been going on about some stuff there that's got content that Susan's been doing over the past couple of weeks. She's been doing some Zoom videos that she's opened up to students. I've only been able to attend one of them, unfortunately, but so I'm going to review all that. So I reviewed the video that was put up yesterday, because yeah, there's another video call tonight. So yeah, probably contact Susan and see if it's worthwhile for you to come to the video call that she's doing tonight as well.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I won't be able to come tonight because I'm teaching another unit. I'm teaching this tonight as well. But yes, definitely I will contact her and ask her what lesson plan you should use, and she will let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll send you, if she sends me a copy of it, I will send it to you, Marissa.
Thank you, because I'm struggling to find copies of these things. I'm also just hopeless, but it just yeah, anyway.
That's fine. I'll send it to you, Marissa, and get back to you for sure.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you for coming. I have marked the roll. We're all good. If you need to go, if you need to hang and ask a question, I've got about 10 minutes, but I know I'm talking to Vivian. And did Finest go, Vivian? She may have. That's okay if she did.
Yeah, she had to leave.
Yeah, but everyone, thank you, and I will see you next week. Bring lesson plans if you need to, bring what you're doing, and I'm happy to give you some advice.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
You too.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, guys. I will stop recording. I'll stop.